I've lately I've been noticing that there's this super sneaky way that that the media and certain like when you're beaten argumentatively in debate or ideologically, like one side is totally licked right now, they just abandon all precepts of debate. They just completely abandon the idea that they're going to argue their side. And you can spot it immediately. Like I'll pull up a video on YouTube, and it's total bullshit when they won't talk about what, like, I was just watching Glenn Greenwald has did an episode with that stupid woman, Taylor Lorenz, and they're talking about Ethan Klein suing like three streamers, Twitch streamers, into the ground, and how vindictive and evil and this and that. And I heard something about this like 6 months ago. I remember Asmongold talking about it, and at the time he made note of this because Ethan Klein basically explained that this was a trap, that he purposely gave these three women multiple warnings to stop like they were basically taking his videos and just posting them on their channel, and maybe really not saying anything, not really reacting to it, just posting it and not having much to say. And he warned them, went out of his way, warned them, do this, do not do this. And then he dropped one specifically for for the purpose of suing them. They did it. They took the bait and did it anyway. And then he dropped another video right after that saying, "Yeah, I'm about to sue you to hell. You get your lawyer up." And now Glenn Greenwald, they're talking about how vicious it is. And I remember at the time, those women broke the damned law. And they're this whole episode that I watched, they're talking about these women just being these victims, and that Ethan Klein's acting like the victim. And it's like, well, what did they do? They would not say. They're supposed to be these honest journalists. Glenn Greenwald, such an honest, he's above board and honest. And yet they're talking around what these women actually did. They won't say what the women actually did because everybody would go, well, they knew better. When you dance with when you sup, you must have a long spoon to sup with the devil. Like, it's just, and I've noticed this in media lately, that if you can't contend with one's arguments, it just totally reverts to this character assassination which is really feminine. It's a really feminine way, like Nick Fuentes on X. It just ceases to astound me that people will criticize Nick Fuentes. They'll criticize anybody for anything but their political or their ideology. Like when people criticize Nick Fuentes, it's never about what he thinks. It's never about what he thinks. It's that he's gay. It's that he's a twink, whatever the hell that is. Uh, I mean, it's just the way he crosses his legs, ridiculous shit, ridiculous. And I feel like fell prey to that shit for years and never really realized that what was going on. But now it's just so obvious that when they bring up these women and they dance around what the women actually did. They won't say what he's suing them for. They refuse to say what he's suing them for. And that right then and there, to me, says they broke the law. They broke the law. He's suing them righteously. If you refuse, because if what they did was not wrong, or like, they would just come out and say it. They would just say all these women did was such and such, and he's ruining their lives. But they won't do that. They refuse to do that. and it's obvious why they refuse to do that. And it's the same thing with Israel. Like, they want to talk about everything. They want to talk about how evil Muslims are, about how they attacked, not Muslims, but how a few people attacked America on 9/11. Which, I remember that day. And a lot of people talking about this stuff, they weren't even alive, or they don't remember that day. I was I was like 15, or something like that. No, I was 11. But it's just, it blows my mind. And the Muslim stuff, it's like they're constantly trying to get us to hate people. That's what they're trying to do. And it's like, and they're not, they're propaganda campaigns in the negative. What I mean by that is, they're not arguing on behalf of somebody, like saying this is a good person. You should listen to this person. They're a good person. No, that's not what they do. They say you shouldn't listen to that person because they're evil and they want you to die. That's their thing, man. That's their nom de plume. That's what they do. Is they don't tell you why to think. They just tell you what to think. And it's so naked to me now. I mean, I don't know why all this, why it's so obvious to me now, but it just has really become this, it's become like a kabuki theater thing to me. It's just like, they just want, and I almost want to say everybody that's the enemy of the mainstream media gets this treatment. Russia gets this treatment. Everybody in the Middle East gets this treatment. And the whole World War II debate, for instance. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I think it's stupid. I think it's low IQ. If when you're using events that happened a century ago to make a point today, yeah, no, you're not in good faith. That's not in good faith. People, and when I think, and when Nick Fuentes talks about World War II, it's with that in mind. Like, I'm talking about this to show how ridiculous these people are, because they literally want to rehash and rehash World War II. They want to, if you, like, let's say you deny something, or you say this didn't happen, or it happened a little differently, people will want to spend hours focused on that, rather than what's going on right now, with the important stuff that's going on right now. These are unserious people. Unserious people. And they're not, they can't win the argument, you see. They cannot win it. All they can do is distract from it. All they can do is try to keep as many people from participating in that argument. And when it's such a core part of a person, they can't afford to admit they're wrong and change their opinion or change their stance. So then their entire, reason for being comes to, like, reinforce this lie. They've lied so long, and it's become a part of them, and they can't accept that they've been wrong all this time, or that they are, and it's just, it's just gotten to the point. It's just so obvious to me. It's so obvious. The people that are disingenuous, and it goes, it also goes the same for here in America. As soon as people start talking about our way of life, or the affordability and stuff, a new war pops up. Or that's that. It's like as soon as people start talking about things that will affect powerful people, something big happens that gets us off that track. And it's not organic. It's not organic. You know, well, there are a lot of people. The people with power like things the way they are right now because they're in power and they have institutions and systems that keep them in power and that they're benefiting from. And if people push for, if we push for change, or 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 if a group of people starts talking about tweaking the system a bit, those people immediately are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Things are doing we're doing really good here. Never mind the fact that 90% of people aren't doing very good for whatever particular thing it is, whatever issue. But because the people that are doing good control all the levers, they won't let anything. They won't. They will not let you, turn over their apple cart. And it's just, it's become so obvious, and it's kind of outrage. It's kind of an outrage, and I'm kind of glad that people are the secret is getting out that how we're being how things are being spun. I mean, this stuff is directly from Herr Goebbels. Herr Goebbels, it's you smear the person, not the argument. You go after the messenger, not the message. I mean, and that's how when the person, the interlocutor, you're dealing with is in bad faith when they won't attack the argument. All they can do is attack the arguer. It's I would have thought it would be a discredited practice, but they do it. They do it with prestige, and we have this big corporation, we have this big state or a corporation or whatever, and they rely off of the awe that people have for institutional power, institutions, and traditional institutes, stuff like that. Big groups of people, and that's all institutions even are. They're just groups of people, and they get entrenched and become institutions. But I it's just been really grating at me lately. I want to do a live stream on it, but I'm working on some. I'm working on an AI speech filter for that will clean out the curse words and stuff, which is pretty neat. It just beeps. I've got it working, but I just a little bit of last minute tweaking to get it set up so that I don't need to constantly. It doesn't. It's so it runs itself. It's automated. That, and so I've got some like a Stream Deck I got coming in the mail and stuff. So I'm just kind of holding off for that. But I may do a stream later. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna start doing streams again. I've just been trying to get my ducks in a row. I kind of didn't really like the low, the really poor production quality that I was for in the streams I was producing. I didn't really have things streamlined. So anyway, that's it. I appreciate y'all subscribing and watching. Catch you next time.